Well, we don't have that much time, so let's jump right into our questions. We all know how important it is that we do something about the troubles that are going on all over the world right now due to the pandemic and its effects. So I'll jump right in by asking Michael, um, we know that there's some very bad problems around the world. What are some of the worst problems that impact investing can help with?
So one of the big problems that impact investing can solve is financial exclusion. The global financial system works well for maybe half the world, but for 3 billion people, they're left out of and poorly served by the global financial system. And for the first time in human history, we have some new technologies that can really change that. So I think impact investing can take a chance and invest in technologies that can transform the way we deliver important basic tools to people all around the world that can really help them weather pandemics and tremendous storms, as well as seize opportunities when the day allows that.
That's great. And of course, that's so important. So any of the other panelists, what else can investment help with in the places that are suffering right now?
I mean, I just want to add a little bit on what Michael said. Like, our portfolio of startups are an incredibly precarious position where they've done so much over the last couple of years to really build financial resilience among not just communities, but also small businesses. But as the sort of economy around them begins to halt, a lot of them might not actually make it to 2021, and having all of that support structure fall away is really scary thought. And I think one of the roles of impact investing is to kind of say that, look, it's important for us as a society, as for these countries, to continue to have those startups and to continue to have those digital innovations support small businesses, which might not be the most commercially sound thing to do, but certainly if you balance both impact and profit, that is absolutely the right thing to do right now. So I think impact investing has a huge role to play in the next couple of months.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would say I'm a little different than Michael and Aaron, I think, in the sense, in two regards primarily. One is that our mandate is primarily focused in the US. And secondly, where our primary objective is to earn returns for our investors. Within that, however, and within my portfolio, I think we're pretty focused on impact investing, and we think about it with respect to all the investments we make, well, trying to meet the first two criteria. So I think, being technology forward leaning in our style investing, and also just if you think through sort of the big growth areas, whether it's in the world or in the United States, there, for us anyway, technology forward and focused on things like the environment, and I think all of the objectives that I think both Michael and Aaron are looking to achieve also. You can do both. You can have profit as well as be an impact investor.
Okay, well, since we came to this question of profit and impact, let's ask the question. So I'll come back to you, Brian. How, you often say no man can serve two masters. So if your objective is profit versus actually making the world a better place, aren't those two things in opposition somehow? If you're focused on making the world better, aren't you leaving some money on the table?
I don't think so at all. In fact, I think that if you look at it in the long run, if you want the outcomes to be long-term sustainable, right, they have to stand on their own foundation. So I think that when we look at an investment, for example, we have a local hydroponic greenhouse company, local in the sense that they build these giant at-scale greenhouses, but 95% less water consumption, no pesticide, all the great attributes. But that business is profitable and has to be self-sustaining. Otherwise, it would rely on third-party intervention forever. So I totally would disagree with the thesis that you just articulated.
And I'll chime in on there. I do think there are parts of impact investing where there may very well be a trade-off between social impact and financial returns. We focus on fintech for financial inclusion, and in our part of the impact investing world, we don't see a trade-off at all. We and I know Aaron's part of this as well. We're working with very early stage fintechs They may have challenges because they're early stage companies, but if they succeed, they're going to have an enormous social impact and a great financial return. And more importantly, our vision is we're trying to bring financial services to 3 billion people who are today left out or poorly served by the global financial system. All the charity in the world is insufficient to that task. We not only have to harness the capital markets, we have to provide returns, but we have to provide attractive returns to the financial markets in order to get that kind of capital to focus on what is an enormous potential market.
Right.
Okay, and Michael, please draw the connection for me and for our viewers. You think of somebody, maybe in a village somewhere, impacted by the pandemic, impacted by climate change, concerned about feeding their family. How does access to financial services make that better?
So financial inclusion is resilience, and it's more important today than ever, especially because of the pandemic. I mean, think about your own life, but insurance is critical, especially in light of the crisis. But also savings and digital payments. If you can make a payment over your phone instead of having to go to a market and do it face to face, all of that is way more important in light of the pandemic. We're seeing some spectacular innovation. And again, these early stage fintechs are innovative and flexible and nimble. One of our partners in India, for example, Toffee, does bite-sized insurance. And they used to have a product where they still do. They were focused on dengue fever insurance and dengue fever season for $6. And now all of a sudden, in light of the pandemic, they've come up with job loss insurance. So if you lose your job, you can get insurance. Even just the notion of insurance is now way more understandable to people than it was before the pandemic. So there are some opportunities in face of this crisis, but these tools are critically important for all of us.
Okay, Aaron, anything to add about that? Because that's your field too.
Yeah, no. So I think obviously micro insurance for health we've taken a long time to invest in one particular company in Kenya called Turaco, which has been working with a lot of gig economy workers to provide that layer of insurance. And I think one thing that impact investing does is that it is a little bit more patient and it comes in a little bit more early than maybe other traditional investors might be. And I think, because we were able to, insert our capital and insert our expertise with Turaco so early on, they've been able to test different ways of distributing their insurance that right now, when employers and families need this insurance the most, they're more than set to be able to quickly distribute, quickly deliver, and work with healthcare providers all across Kenya to really give these families the resilience that they need. And I think throughout the portfolio, as much as there are companies that I'm worried about, there are also companies that are doing way, way better right now than ever before. And that's, again, as Michael, you mentioned, large part to do with the agility, the ability to move quickly and respond, which a lot of the larger institutions just don't have.
I would just add, so the other difference I think between us is that we're growth stage investors. So we're investing in companies after kind of it's been proven that the dogs are eating the dog food, but they generally are climbing up the S curve, right, of innovation. So I think it works at both levels. I think it works at the earlier level, as Aaron just articulated, and I also think it works at our level so that you can then take these really interesting ideas and scale them out.
Great. Okay. And Michael, you kind of touched on this for a second, but let's ask the question directly. I think there are some people who would say, if you're concerned about all the people who are suffering out there and you have money, maybe a better use of it would be philanthropy than investing. Why is investing better, or what can investing do that philanthropy can't?
So I like the last way you phrased the question, because there's clearly a role for philanthropy, and especially actually now in this crisis, sometimes there's a need for just loan forgiveness, and there's so there is, and also philanthropy generally has allowed our organization, for example, to try new things and be innovative and take chances in markets and on products that we never would have otherwise. But the global financial system works well for many, but for 3 billion people, they're left out of the whole system. And in order to make that work and bring those tools to everyone, you have to have companies that are sustainable and scalable and therefore profitable. So we are a big believer in harnessing the capital markets for social change. And I should say there's a lot of trends going on here. Not only is there dramatic fintech innovation, but the rise of social entrepreneurship, where it feels like a third of everyone graduating from business schools today wants to be a social entrepreneur. And philanthropy has changed a lot, where people don't want to just write checks. They want to invest and they want to see real change.
Great.
Okay, and yeah, you're just to go back to Michael for half a second, it seems just from the website of your company that you're somehow operating on that borderline between philanthropy and investment. So tell me a tiny bit about how that works.
We always have. Axion is a global nonprofit, so any profits that we make go back to our mission, but we deeply believe in harnessing the capital market. So we are a venture capital investor. We grew up in the microfinance field, but now we're much more focused today on fintech venture capital investing at the early stages and the growth stage, all about bringing fintech for financial inclusion. We're one of the leaders in that. And again, we find, support, and build some of the most innovative companies in the world, all trying to use new digital tools to reach people who have never been reached before.
And Aaron, I see you nodding. Are you at that intersection of philanthropy and investment also, or are you purely on
Yes, so we're absolutely loving being in the same space as Michael, and we definitely wish more people would join that space. I think the role of philanthropy is still absolutely key. I think we're still backed by philanthropic capital, but our role really is to try and catalyze more commercial capital to come in after us, because philanthropic capital has also its limits. And I think we really enjoyed kind of like injecting our brand of focus on how to build a venture-like company with venture-like returns while still having your eye firmly on unincluded populations and delivering services to them. So getting to introduce VC level returns to impact companies and some impact metrics to VC oriented companies. So that's a tremendous, really fun intersection to be in.
And that's great. So Michael, you touched on something which I think probably all of you are familiar with, which is that a lot of people are coming out of school these days or coming out of whatever wanting to be social entrepreneurs. And of course, a lot of publications like ours are saying, you should have a mission and it should all be about the money. For anybody watching who's aspiring to be a founder that might work with one of your companies or wants to be a social entrepreneur, what kind of advice would you give?
Wow. Honestly, the advice I'd give is go into the emerging markets and really talk to clients and solve a real problem. Don't sit in your classroom, don't sit on your campus and imagine the kind of company you want to create. Go see on the ground what the problems are. And again, the innovation that we're seeing and the creativity by these social entrepreneurs is really quite extra. We are, again, it's a little bit lost in the pandemic right now, but we are living through spectacular innovations that are changing every aspect of financial services, and they have enormous repercussions for how you can reach people you never could reach before. So solve a real problem, and I think the capital will follow.
If there was ever a time to jump into it, I think now absolutely is that time. There's a ton of problems that social entrepreneurship can solve, and we need more people on it more than ever. And there are a ton of opportunities out there. I've been working with a young Kenyan and a young Nigerian who are building a fellowship program to help people make that first step into social entrepreneurship in Africa, called Venture for Africa. And maybe you don't want to start by building your own business from day one, but maybe you want to start by working alongside an existing entrepreneur that's already building something super cool, right? And learning from that and going on.
Now is the best time I can remember to be an entrepreneur. Whether it's philanthropic or for profit, there's a lot of capital out there, and there's a lot of really great people to help you along. I think it's maybe the best time that I can remember to be an entrepreneur.
Well, that's great, and I love ending on that note. So thank you so much for joining me, and thanks so much for coming to Collision from Home.
Thank you.
Nice to be with you all. Thank you.